So on this, I'm going to talk about how to use some really basic shapes to help you as you start adding a little more form to the limbs of the body, or, again, even like the head, the feet, hands, whatever it is. When you're drawing the figure, you can use some really basic shapes to help you deal with, we call it foreshortening, but really it's perspective. And because it's always a lot easier to put like a cylinder or a cube in perspective. Okay, so actually we'll start out with like a simple cylinder. So if you're drawing a cylinder, let's say it's sitting on the table, it's gonna look something like this. I'm gonna say it's like a soup can or something like that. Okay, so what ends up happening is if you have that that cylinder and then it's aimed at you, it's kind of pointed at you like that at an angle. It's a little hard to draw, but that's using that idea. Once you start getting good at drawing cylinders in perspective, or like I said, a cube, you can use that same idea to draw the figure. So if I'm going to draw a cylinder in perspective, again, what ends up happening is, you can kind of use a line to help you with the angle and say, it's just like it's here and it's tipped, it's kind of pointed at us. Then what happens is those curves, again, you're basically just drawing it sort of on its side. You're just drawing it from a different angle. And so what will happen is that the, especially if it's coming at you, and I'm probably not showing this as well as I should. Part of it's closer to you and part of it's further away. So the part that's closer to you is going to look a little bit larger. And then as it goes back in space, and we'll kind of exaggerate it a little more, it diminishes. And so then it, of course, looks a little smaller there, a little bit larger there. Okay. So again, you can use that same idea when you're drawing a figure. Okay, let's say like a cube might look something like something like that, and I'll kind of fix some of this here. Something like that kind of normally, and then again, if you're dealing with it coming in perspective, especially if you make it a little bit longer, sort of like I did with that cylinder. You can kind of apply that same principle where it's going to be smaller back here. As it comes towards us, it's going to be larger. And you might see a little bit of the side right there. Okay. So I always say you can use whatever shape works for you. For some reason it looks more like a cone, or if it looks more like, more geometric to you is better. More of a cylinder, that'll work. So I've uploaded an image of one of the models, and there's actually a pretty good angle, like where her leg is pointed at us. So you can kind of look at the photo at the same time, and then as I'm sketching this out. And so what ends up happening, I'm just going to kind of draw the lower part of the body. So again, there's sort of like the pelvic bone, and then, obviously you won't see her spine, but, we'll kind of block this out a little bit. So there's like her rib cage, or let's just say the upper part of the torso, from where she's sitting. Okay, so then what ends up happening is that knee is coming towards us. And so what you can do then is, again, sort of treat it the same way, like I did up here. Your ellipse, or if you're not getting the exact angle of the cylinder at first, that's okay. You don't really have to get it exactly right. But I'm just kind of applying the same idea here. And I'm just using a cylinder, okay? And then what ends up happening is her knee actually goes the other way too. Or not her knee, but like her, you know, lower part of her leg, her shins and calf muscles go this way. And so you can, you know, in some ways sort of overlap a couple other cylinders. Let's go back that way. Okay. And then like somewhere, that's probably up here. So her leg is kind of pointed up. So I can, you know, kind of use some lines just to get me an idea of where things are. I can mark like that's the ankle, that's the knee. You know, I'd really like, it's coming off the, it's attaching somewhere on the hip bone. But even here, where I'm dealing with a little bit of foreshortening, you know, if I draw this, and it should go down further, but I can use the idea of it being a cylinder. And then same thing here. And so this one's not really coming right at us, so I don't have to necessarily really draw it where this part's larger and this part's further away. But I guess use that. And even the foot, you know, you could use a cylinder. I might go with more of a cube here just to make it different. And there we go, and even the arms. You know, again, her elbow's about right there. Actually, this should be up higher. Probably drew a rib cage a little small, it's okay. So there's her elbow. Let's say there's the wrist. And so again, when I go to add some you know, make this a little bit more three-dimensional. I can think of it again as like cylinders. Okay, and then the hand, I don't know, it's probably more of a little, think about like a little flat box. You know, so really it's a cube, but think of it a little more flat like that. Okay, and so, you know, again, especially if like someone's leg or the arms pointed at you, using this idea is really helpful. Okay, because, you know, as you get better, then you don't necessarily need to sketch all that out. Like if I'm drawing the knee, then I might kind of start more with this sort of form and, you know, drawing that lower part of the leg. Okay, and then I start kind of toning this in and you know, I don't necessarily need to go that basic. When I start drawing this, I can, you know, kind of go more to the form, maybe a little closer to what it looks like. But I'm still using that same idea and concept as I'm trying to think of how it sits in space three-dimensionally. So, you know, there's kind of more of a curve here and the part right here where obviously there's more of a mass dark. Start thinking about what's in shadow. Okay, and so you can build it to look like a three-dimensional structure. You know, and again, this is just kind of a little loose sketch, but like I said, I approached it with the same idea. And so, you know, if I were to sit here and keep drawing this, you know, if I start out with something that's it feels a little more three-dimensional to me, when I go to actually, you know, finish the drawing, and or as I keep, you know, building my tones and values and the planes and all that, it's gonna feel a lot more three-dimensional from the beginning and end up looking a lot more three-dimensional, which is what you want. You want it to look three-dimensional.